So I'm gonna do another example of how to simplify rational expressions. Same stuff we started on Friday. So we're gonna first factor the numerator and the denominator, cancel out any common factors, and set the original denominator equal to 0, and solve in order to find our excluded values. So first we want to factor the numerator and the denominator. So our numerator is x squared minus 9. So you might not remember how to simplify this, but remember this is called a difference of squares. That means there's two perfect squares and there's subtraction between the two of them. We agree 9 is a perfect square and x squared is a perfect square. And if we take the square root of both of them, we get a whole number. That's why they're perfect squares. And then there's a subtraction sign in between the two. So that means that we take the square root of the first one, x squared, the square root is x, and the square root of 9 is 3. Remember, when we take the square root, all we're doing is doing the opposite of squaring it. So 3 times 3 is 9, and x times x is x squared. That's why we got that. Excuse me. So that makes our factor become the first. Let me try to do this in a different color just to clarify. The first plus the second times the first minus the second answer we got. So that's how that factors out. So there's our factorization of x squared minus 9. If you didn't remember that, another way you could have done it is to think x squared plus 0x minus 9, because there's no x, so it's 0x. And then you could have done our typical table, add and multiply, see what adds to be 0 and multiplies to be negative 9. The only two things you would have come up with is 3 minus 3 is 0. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. So you still would have gotten x plus 3 times x minus 3. So there you go. That's the numerator is factored. We need to do the denominator. Our denominator is x squared plus 4x plus 3. This is a typical trinomial. So we remember how to do that. We're looking for two numbers that add together to be 4 and multiply together to be 3. 3 and 1. 3 plus 1 is 4. 3 times 1 is 3. That works. So our factorization here will be the denominator, and it will be x plus 3 times x plus 1. They're both positive. So that's step 1. Step 2 is to cancel out any common factors. So common factor here is x plus 3. It's in the denominator and in the numerator. So this simplifies to x minus 3 over x plus 1. We can't simplify that any further, so that's our full simplification. That's step 2. And then we need to go back and set the original denominator. So don't make the mistake of, we do not want to set this denominator equal to 0. We want to set this denominator. Before we canceled anything out, that's what we want to set equal to 0. So we'll set x plus 3 times x plus 1 equals 0. So we'll set x plus 3 equals 0, x plus 1 equals 0, and solve. Here x is equal to negative 3, and here x is equal to negative 1. So then zoom out a little bit, then our final answer is x minus 3 over x plus 1, where x cannot equal negative 3 or negative 1, which are our excluded values.